Hello, everyone. Welcome to the final 49ers quality control meeting of the season. I consider the season not yet over because the Super Bowl is coming up this weekend. So I think it's still time to look back and give proper assessments of every single position group on the team, including coaches and quality control. First, I want to say there's no Mondays with Vish this week. He's taking a week off. He's going to be back next week. So shout out Vish. See you next time. And I also wanted to say I'm not late. For the record, I was exactly on time. Also wanted to say that there's a new addition to the weekly lineup. It's going to be Thursday mornings. I'm not telling you who this person is yet, but new addition, big addition. I was a little nervous to ask the person to join. I felt like this person was way beyond me for a long time, and I had to sort of get myself on this person's level before I could even reach out. This person said yes. Thursdays at I think 9 a.m. Anyway, little teaser. Let's start off. Let's grade this team. What do you say? What do you say? Let's start off in the back end on defense, work our way to the offense and the coaching staff and quality control. Save quarterback for the end. What do you think? You guys feel free to leave any comments that you want. You can donate or not. I will go through them and take some feedback on my grades at the end of each section. Start off with cornerbacks. Cornerbacks. B. The cornerbacks coming into the season I thought were the weakness of the team. They're not a weakness. They're actually a strength. Starting with, just look at it. They had Jason Verrett. Last year, we attributed much of the Niners' defensive success to Jason Verrett playing great. His numbers in 2020, he played 13 games, 75 targets, 50 catches allowed, 7 pass breakups, 2 picks, 1 touchdown allowed, a 76.2 rating. That was Verrett. He was great. Didn't play with Bosa. He was great. He goes down week 1 this year. A lot of people are thinking Niners are screwed. I predicted before the season started they would win 10 games. I said they would go 10-7. Toot my own horn. As soon as Verrett got hurt, I'm like 9-8. I thought he was that important. But what happened is Emmanuel Moseley came in and played just as well or better. Here are Mosley's numbers from 2021. 11 games, 55 targets, 31 catches allowed, 11 pass breakups, 1 pick, no touchdowns allowed, 65.6 rating. Now, he did have Bosa. Still, he was a lockdown corner in the 11 games he played, and he was great in the playoffs too. Emmanuel Moseley is a hell of a player, and they don't even pay him that much. We used to say he's a high level 2. Nah, he's a borderline Pro Bowl cornerback. He just doesn't intercept a lot of passes, so people don't know about him. And plus, the front 7 on the Niners defense gets all the love, but he's really good. And if you notice, teams just stopped going after him. He only got targeted 51 times. He only played 11 games, but still, there's no reason to go after Emmanuel Moseley. He's pretty freaking good. And the rest of the guys are – Cohn Williams is solid. Cohn Williams, to me, is a B nickel. I think Emmanuel Moseley had an A season. He missed not 5 games, so give him an A-. Cohn Williams is a solid B nickel who may not come back because he's getting older, but when he played, he was terrific. He played 14 games. Josh Norman was freaking awful and played way more than he needed to, but that's more of a coaching error. They had better players on the team the whole time, and when Ambry Thomas came in, that was one of the key moves of the year. The Niners were 3-5. One of the key reasons they went on the run that they did was Ambry Thomas got a chance to play, and he was promising. He was the weakest link, and when he got beat, it was often for a big play or a first down on 3rd and long or a touchdown. He gave up a bunch of touchdowns, but I think a lot of people felt that his play was promising and that he should start next year, and that he did more good than bad, especially after his first couple of starts. So from those 3, I actually thought they were better than expected. They exceeded expectations. B but I'm feeling generous today. I gave him a B. Hold on. Someone's calling me. I think it might be Emmanuel Moseley right now, telling me they disagree. Nope, not Emmanuel Moseley. Sorry. B for the cornerbacks. Vincent, thank you. Barry Baller says C+. Big Hex says C+. George says B. We can't bring back Mike McFlinchy liability. True, but we're talking corners right now. Ambry C+. I gave D because of Norman. Moseley B+. I don't know, man. I thought Moseley had an A year. If you give up a 65.6 quarterback rating is hard to do. He gave up no touchdowns this year. Emmanuel Moseley, no touchdowns. So I thought he was quite good. Hold on. Who is calling me? Who's a voice message in 2020? You psycho? What kind of a psycho leaves a voice message? No, I'm not listening to that. It's 4 seconds. I bet you I don't need to listen to it. I bet you. All right, here we go. Moving on. Safeties. B. Safeties are solid. Jimmy Ward had a better than solid year. Jimmy Ward had a A- season. He intercepted 2 passes. He was all the things he normally is: solid coverage, good man-to-man coverage against tight ends, doesn't give up big plays. But he also got those 2 picks in that game when the Niners were 3-5. He really turned the season around. The Niners were on life support, and Jimmy Ward intercepted 2 passes in that game against the Rams, changed everything. So Jimmy Ward saved their season. He was the first person that saved their season. Jaquiski Tartt played 14 games. He was solid when he played, and when he was gone, you could really feel the absence. Like, the Niners kept trying to make Talanoa Hufanga a thing. They kept making Hufanga and Tartt split time, and there's a big difference between those two. Tartt gave up a passer rating of about 95. Hufanga gave up a passer rating of 114. Hufanga is not half the athlete that Tartt is, can't cover like him. Good special teams player. So Tartt was necessary, but no fumbles forced, no fumbles recovered, no interceptions. And then when he did have the easiest interception ever, just, served up to him on a platter in the 4th quarter of the Super Bowl, he dropped it. If you're my age or a little older, you remember Bill Buckner with the Boston Red Sox. He had he was a first baseman. He had a slow ground ball right to him to put the game away, and it went through his legs. And that's what he's remembered for. Unfortunately for Jaquiski Tartt, that's probably what he's going to be remembered for on the 49ers if he leaves in free agency, as he probably will. Free agent. That was his Bill Buckner moment. It's how I remember him. But I'm still giving this group a B. I thought it was a good group, just as solid as the Niners corners. And when all 5 of their guys were healthy together, Tartt, Ward, Kwan, Ambry, and Moseley, it was an above-average secondary. No matter what the front 7 was doing, which was really surprising to me. These safeties in particular, 2 vets, been playing together since high school. They really do play off each other very well, even though they don't force turnovers. It didn't hurt the Niners because other players on the Niners forced turnovers. The Niners had no problems forcing turnovers after week 9. These 2 really did serve a function, just being solid, not giving up any big plays, forcing quarterbacks to check it down. It's just that Tartt's miss in the Super Bowl is a big one. B for the safeties. We can't. Oh, wait, we already got you. Hold on. Let's see what else we got. Kia Stinger payment is overdue. Nah, man, I never miss a payment. Already paid my quarterly taxes too. Good grade B, says Chewy. I give them a B as well. Tartt making vet minimum in 2021. True. I mean, I thought they were good. I thought it was a good secondary, and I thought it was coming into the season, I thought it would be a liability. It was a good secondary. Moving on. All right. Hold on. Here we go. Linebackers, A-. It was interesting. Dre Greenlaw had a pick 6 week 1 and then tore his groin or something and was out most of the year. So one of their best linebackers was out. And then that just allowed Azeez Al-Shaair to show that he's better than Greenlaw. Al-Shaair replaced him, was definitely better. Had 9 tackles for loss, led the team. 100 and something tackles. More than 100 tackles, 9 tackles for loss. Excellent play. Not great in coverage, but pretty good. And then you had Fred Warner, who had a very interesting season, 137 tackles. The Niners' run defense was excellent, especially down the stretch. So he did his job in that respect. But the one thing that was interesting, everyone kept alluding all year, he's not quite what he was last year. He's not playing up to his normal level. I was like, well, what is it about Warner? Well, it was his coverage. In 2020, he allowed a passer rating of 69.7 when targeted. It was, and that's a big reason why he got the money he got. He was like this new age coverage specialist, because linebackers are in this, evolution right now where they were usually their number one prime job was stopping the run, but now it's a pass first league, and you need guys who can't get exploited in coverage. And not only would Warner not get exploited in coverage, he would take the ball away. He was like Richard Sherman. He was like the Richard Sherman of linebackers. You better not throw toward him, and he's right in the middle of the field, messing everything up. In 2021, he gave a passer rating of 111.6 and a completion percentage of 79. The year before was 62. This year was 79. He was not the player in coverage he was the previous 3 years of his career when Robert Saleh was here. Maybe it's because Robert Saleh's gone. Saleh was talking to him. Maybe Saleh would tell him what to anticipate and made him bet. I don't know. D'Amico's really good too, but maybe Robert Saleh was able to help Fred Warner be one step ahead of the offense. I don't know. But it seemed like, I don't know about you guys, a lot of these times in Tennessee, when the Niners were giving up these long conversions on 3rd and 11, 3rd and 12, you'd have Warner, Azeez Al-Shaair covering grass, giving up catches to like Cooper Kupp right between them. There were a lot of times like that, right? Where Warner would be right there and just be a little late in zone, getting over. And it's like, man, in the past, he'd be all over that. There was the 1 week 3 where he got beat on the final drive against Devontae Adams and the Packers, but really he didn't make any plays that I can remember, like big plays in coverage this year, which that was his thing. So he's still a great player, still had 137 tackles. Azeez Al-Shaair is really good. A-. I think Warner can do better. He said he can do better. He is the Richard Sherman of coverage linebackers. He needs to get back to that. And I don't want to just put it all on Saleh. Saleh left. No, I think it's in Warner. I think Warner can do it on his own without Saleh. So that's my only explanation for why he fell off. That deep middle was just wide open for teams all year. That's the way I look at it. A- for the linebackers. All right, let's move on. Defensive linemen. Defensive lineman, A+. This is arguably the best unit on the team. It's certainly the deepest. I mean, let's just go through it. Step back for a second. 7th in yards per carry allowed, run defense. And this is a wide 9 front. 7th in yards per carry allowed, like 7th fewest yards per carry. And then 3rd in sack percentage. Only 2 teams got sacks more frequently than the Niners. So that's elite numbers, right? That's all you need to know. But then player for player, Nick Bosa has a torn ACL last year. It's his 2nd torn ACL. He's also had a core muscle. He's had 3 devastating potential career-ending injuries. Every time he has one, he comes back stronger. How does he do that? That's crazy. He was better this year than he was as a rookie, and he was coming off a torn ACL. He didn't play in 2020. He did barely anything in training camp. I was there, and I was like kind of pointing it out and not really like whining about it, but I was like, hey, Bosa's not practicing. He's just kind of like going through the motions. And boom, great season. He was a freaking machine. He was relentless. Great player, great season. Then you had Eric Armstead finding a home at defensive tackle once they moved him there. That was one of the 3 key moves of the year. One of the main key moves of the year, along with Ambry Thomas getting inserted into the offense, into the starting lineup on defense, obviously. Eric Armstead moving to defensive tackle. As a defensive end, he's a good run defender wherever you put him. But at defensive end, he's not a pass rusher. He can't even keep the quarterback in the pocket. At defensive tackle, he is a pocket collapser extraordinaire. He is an impact pass rusher. He's really, really, really good defensive tackle. That was big. And then Arden Key. Arden Key isn't the run defender that our Eric Armstead is in the interior, but he's every bit the pass rusher Eric Armstead is, maybe even better. Arden Key came out of nowhere to be maybe the Niners' best interior rusher on the team. You also have DJ Jones, who's just there to stop the run, but he's also a good pass rusher. Kevin Givens, who's like the 3rd string nose tackle, hell of a player. Not to mention Samson Ebukam, who came on strong at the end. Charles Omena, who played well in the very few opportunities he got. Who am I forgetting? Oh, how about Javon Kinlaw and D Ford, who basically didn't play this year? Big reason the Niners started 3-5 is that they were like waiting for those guys to do something. Kinlaw had 4 games, no sacks, 8 tackles. D Ford had 6 games, like 100-something snaps. Once those guys were phased out and the Niners figured out their best players, this D-line took over. was utterly dominant. And I think the only thing that stopped them this year was the fact that they started out 3-5 and had to play 4 road games in a row at the end and just kind of ran out of gas. Had they been able to play home games like they did in 2019, they'd be in the Super Bowl right now. Defensive line, A+. Jimmy plus something to Pitt for Najee. They're not going to trade Najee. They're not going to trade Najee. They want to run their whole offense through Najee. Alpha 45 says you should never be allowed in the Niners press room again. Well, I appreciate your input. Street was the one player who really didn't have a good year. He was moved around a lot as a run defender. He had a good training camp, but I thought he was a terrible run defender from week 1 on. It's the only thing. And then Maurice Hurst, that's the guy that didn't play. Oh, Jordan Willis. Jordan Willis was really good. Jordan Willis was so good that you could probably argue next year their top 4 pass rushers should be on 3rd down. Their 4-man pass rush should be Bosa, Armstead, Key, Willis. I think Willis is a better. How did I forget about Willis? This unit is crazy good. I think he's better than Ebicom. I think he's better than Amenahu. Key's a free agent. I'm not going to talk about that in a minute, whether he's coming back. But wow. Also, yeah, DJ Jones mentioned him, but Jordan Willis too. This is an A+ defensive line. So there you go. A+. Moving on. Let's go to the offense. Offensive linemen. Hold on. Let me get my handy dandy notebook out. Because really, I'm just Steve from Blue's Clues. Okay. Have all my notes here. Okay. Offensive linemen. C+. Let me give you some stats. The Niners were 16th in yards per carry this year, despite having 2 of the best running backs in the league. 16th. Now, a lot of that is teams not respecting the quarterback. That's going to be a theme with the offense here. If defenses don't respect your quarterback and your own play caller doesn't trust your quarterback, you're going to have things like this happen. But 16th in yards per carry and 15th in sack percentage. Sacks allowed. It's pretty mediocre. That's why I'm giving them the plus, because I feel like with another quarterback, maybe Trey Lance, if Trey Lance is any better than Jimmy Garoppolo, it'll be Lance. But any quarterback who's better than Jimmy, any quarterback you respected his arm, someone like Stafford, defenses would have to back off. They wouldn't smother the run the way they are. And maybe a guy like Lance avoids a lot of those sacks that Jimmy Garoppolo just takes by standing still. So, I don't know. I mean, Trent Williams is a special player. No one else in that line's special. Lakin's solid. He's okay. He's going to get overpaid in free agency. He's solid. Mack is solid but old. He may not even come back next year. Brunskill's subpar. Compton subpar. McKivitz is subpar. McGlinchey is subpar. It's a decent plus offensive line. The Niners just don't put a ton of resources into it. They put a ton of resources into left tackle and try to get by. They just their attitude is, as long as we don't have awful players in the offensive line who lose games for us, we'll be okay. We'll just be really strong at left tackle. Well, okay, C+. C+. Is that too harsh? Trent's really good. Trent's an A+ player, but I mean, Tomlinson's B. Mack is B-. Brunskill's what? C-, D+. Compton's D+. McGlinchey's D+. That's the way I see it. Hope we go after Stephon Gilmore and Chandler Jones. They're going to be expensive players. I don't know how much cap space the Niners have, and a lot of it's going to be going into Debo and Nick Bosa. I think they're going to, once again, be spending most of their money on their own players. But yeah, I hope they can figure out a way to get one of those guys. Maybe Gilmore? You know what I'm saying? I'm quality control today. Damon says, my girlfriend asked me to donate to ask you to turn down the volume on the countdown intro. She says, think about the innocent bystanders. But I have, though. On iMovie, I've turned it down to 40%. It wasn't 100% when I first started, but I moved down to 40%. Maybe I'll have to move it down another 10% to 30%. I'll do that. Tell me. But I think the obnoxiousness of it is kind of what gives it its charm. I don't know. For her, maybe I'll knock it down. Okay, C+ for the offensive line. Is that fair? You guys mad about that? Yes, no? All right, cool. Let's move on. Tight ends. A-, which is crazy to me because I still think George Kittle is an A player, if not an A+ player. but he definitely had a down season by his standards. I mean, he didn't have 1,000 yards receiving, and he averaged less than 30 yards per game in the last 6 games. I mean, he was a fourth option in the passing game in the playoffs throughout. He had a good game in Green Bay, but he also had a big drop in Green Bay. Part of the reason his production went down is Debo took over. The quarterback's limited. That's a big reason. The quarterback's limited, but Debo took over. They don't throw that much because the quarterback's limited, and he was hurt all year. That's a big thing. I mean, he hurt his calf week 1 and went on IR with it. It never fully healed, and I think that's probably part of the reason they were limiting his touches down the stretch. But still, A-, 900 yards, had a touchdown in the NFC Championship game. He's still an excellent player when healthy. It's just that's been less and less frequent. I mean, he hasn't really been healthy since he's signed this extension 2 years ago. I do think he's worth the money if you give him the ball and he's healthy. So he has to take care of the health this year like Debo did, and the Niners have to have a better plan to get him the ball. I think just moving on from Jimmy Garoppolo should do wonders, because the Niners' whole thing was we can't trust Jimmy to throw the ball more than 25 times, and Debo's the best player in the league. So there's just limited opportunities for George Kittle, who was hurt. Also, I thought Charlie Warner really improved as a blocker this year. I thought he really improved as a blocker this year. And when he got the ball, I thought he was a pretty good tight end who was tough to bring down the open field. And then Dwelly, I think, has been a good receiver ever since he's been here. They just never call his number. And when they do, he catches the ball. So they got rid of their tight end coach. I still don't understand why. I don't think they wanted to get rid of him. Maybe they did. It's very strange. But I thought the tight end group was really good, and it wasn't just Kittle. I thought Warner earned his role as the number 2 blocking tight end. I thought he was a good blocking tight end, and I think Dwelly is the best number 3 tight end in the league that no one uses. So A- for the tight ends. Alfredo Gutierrez needs to be on the field. He is a big guy and a beast, but not sure if he's still with the team. He is. He's a long-term developmental project. So give him. They're definitely not giving up on him. What else we got? Yeah. A- for the tight ends. I think that's pretty fair. Let's move on. Wide receivers. All right. Okay, wide receivers. A+. I'm putting Debo Samuel in this group and the running back group, but I'm having him here. I mean, look, he had 1,400 receiving yards playing with Jimmy Garoppolo and doubling as a running back and splitting targets with Kittle and Ayuk. 1,400 receiving yards. Led the league in yards per catch, Debo, even though he has a quarterback who has a phobia of throwing down the field. Most of those yards are after the catch. I don't know if most of them are. A huge percentage of those yards were after the catch. Debo Samuel, in my opinion, was the best player in the league this year. He was the best wide receiver in the league. He was the best running back in the league. He was the best player in the league. I'm not going to call him a wide back. He was multiple positions. He was a quarterback at one point when the Niners needed him to be one, and he threw a touchdown pass. Debo Samuel, I mean, he saved. Let's just go back. Not just the numbers, but they were in Chicago losing at halftime, about to lose to the Bears and have their season go up in smoke. If they lost that game to the Bears, I bet you Trey Lance would have started the rest of the season. Maybe it would have been for the best. But there was 3rd and 20. They were down. Second half. He gets a screen pass, goes 83 yards. Niners win the game. That probably saved the season. Then in the NFC Championship game, he had that 44-yard screen that went for a touchdown, which, I mean, was the play of the game for them. Also had a touchdown pass week 18 when they were down and needed to get back in the game, and they just kept handing off to him and Mitchell, and finally he threw the touchdown pass. Best wide. I mean, I saw Cooper Kupp in person 3 times this year. Cooper Kupp is a phenomenal wide receiver. He's really good. Debo's better. Just imagine this guy if he had Matthew Stafford. He wouldn't have. Debo Samuel ran the ball 80 times after week 9 and got like 34 catches. He had to go play running back because the Niners can't trust Jimmy Garoppolo to throw more than 25 passes a game. If Stafford was the quarterback here, Debo might have had 2,000 receiving yards. He might have broken Jerry Rice records. And he still had 1,400 yards. And he's just one of the guys. Brandon Ayuk Dude was in the doghouse for the first half of the year because Kyle thought Trent Sherfield had a better camp. No offense to Trent Sherfield, but what Brandon Ayuk was, they still didn't even explain ever what it was about Brandon Ayuk. Was it his blocking? Was it his route running? There are a million theories. It was never clearly communicated from the team to the player or to the media what it was. There's a million theories. Some people say it's his route running. Some people say it was his blocking. Some people say it was his effort in training camp. Some people say it was because he was showing up Jimmy Garoppolo on the field when Garoppolo would miss him or not see him. Who knows? Never was clearly communicated. It doesn't really matter, though, because he's really good. One of the better number 2 wide receivers in the league. And on the Niners, he's a number 3 option. He might be the best number 3 option in the league because Kittle's the number 2 option here, although not down the stretch. I mean, he's in the doghouse the first half of the year. They go 3-5. They finally get him incorporated in the offense. He finishes the year when targeted, Niners quarterbacks have a rating of 118.5 this year with Ayuk, meaning tops on the team, by the way, meaning good things freaking happen when you throw to Ayuk. Had a really good divisional playoff game and NFC Championship. Had the one target in Green Bay, dropped it, looked like a fumble, wasn't a fumble, never got another opportunity, but would have had a huge game-sealing catch in Dallas, but Jimmy sailed the ball over his head. Ayuk was a really good player this year, is a good player. And again, imagine if he had a quarterback who was really good. What if Ayuk was on the Chiefs? And instead of 25 targets to go around, there were 40. What if Ayuk was on the Chiefs in that Sammy Watkins role, which is what the role he's in here? The problem is they don't have Mahomes. They have Jimmy. So Ayuk was excellent. And then Juwan Jennings was buried on the depth chart because Kyle Shanahan thought Mohamed Sanu was having a revival year, which he wasn't. Everyone was talking about how great Sanu was in training camp. He wasn't. Then he took all these targets away from Ayuk and Jennings too, mostly Jennings the first half of the year. Didn't deserve it, did nothing with those. Jennings comes in, and then at the end of the season, the 49ers quarterback rating when targeting him is 114. 114. He's their secret weapon. I mean, by the end of the season, he was catching wide open touchdown passes on crucial drives because everyone was trying to double Kittle and Debo. You know what I mean? They were focused on Kittle, Debo, Ayuk. Boom, Jennings wide open touchdown. He's their new Kendrick Bourne. He might be better than Bourne ever was. Bourne would drop passes. Jennings, they both have big, strong hands, and they have focus drops. Like they'll just drop easy passes. But tough catches, they'll make. And the one that Jennings made in the NFC Championship game, it was a 3rd and 10, gotta have it. He caught it 2 yards in front of the marker because that's where Jimmy hit him. Got smacked, spun backward, went back to like 4 yards behind the marker, and then dove forward to get the first down, to get like a 12-yard gain on 3rd and 10. It was amazing. I love that play. Juwan Jennings is a really good number 3 wide receiver. The Niners have maybe the best wide receiver trio in the league, but you never know it because they have to be a run-first team because of Jimmy Garoppolo. Imagine if they had Stafford or Trey Lance. Imagine if they had Trey Lance. Oh, they do have Trey Lance. Anyway, A+ for the wide receivers. I thought this supporting cast the Niners had this season was phenomenal. And now I've given 2 A+. A+ for the defensive line. A+ for the wide receivers. A- for the linebackers. A- for the tight ends. What a team this was. And it didn't even go to the Super Bowl. Debo saved Jimmy, so he didn't save the season. Without Debo in Chicago, Trey would have had first ring now. Yeah, man. Debo is the reason that Jimmy Garoppolo lasted. My friend is building a snack stadium for the Super Bowl, but his wife is not allowing him to put wings in it. But all of the food is okay. Any advice? That's arbitrary. What's wrong with wings? How come wings can't go in the snack stadium? Push harder. That's arbitrary. What are we talking about here? Who's mad? What are you guys talking about? Sibilla? I can talk about this thing Sibilla said at the end about Nick Bosa. You guys are really mad about that? Why don't you bring it up with her? I can talk about that at the end, though. Herd comeback tour. Ha! No, absolutely not. Okay, let's go running backs. Okay. Running backs. A+. Seriously. I thought the Niners running backs were the 2 best running backs in the league. I thought the Niners had the best 1-2 punch in the league. which was funny because going into the season, you were thinking it was Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson Jr. Jeff Wilson Jr. tears his meniscus or something in minicamp. He's out. Raheem Mostert injures his knee on the second carry of the season. You're thinking this team is screwed. This team is screwed. Their running game is screwed. And then, boom, Elijah Mitchell immediately established himself as a bell cow running back. 11 games, 963 yards, 5 touchdowns, 4.7 yards per carry as a rookie. He was one of the best rookie running backs in the league, if not the best rookie running back in the league this year. 6th-round pick. Going to be the Niners starting running back for a while. But he wasn't their best running back. Debo really ran 80 times from week 10 on. He had 8 touchdowns in the regular. He had 8 rushing touchdowns in the regular season. We have won the playoffs, averaged 6.2 yards per carry. 6.2 yards per carry. His run on 3rd and 7 in Green Bay sealed the game. I don't know that there's any other running back that you would feel confident handing off to in that situation. 3rd and 7, if you don't get it, you probably got a punt and you might lose. 3rd and 7, you feel more confident handing off to Debo than throwing to him. Why? Because of the quarterback. That's like a high school call. We don't trust our quarterback to do the simplest thing, so we're going to hand off to our best player on 3rd and 7 and pray. And he got 9 yards. Also, his touchdown run in Dallas, right after Dak Prescott's interception, Debo goes on the field and goes to Kyle and says, I don't know what he says, but I think he said, I got you. Basically like, dude, don't overthink this. Give me the ball. And then he scores a touchdown to basically put the game out of reach. Legendary things that Debo did this year as a running back. In the future, I don't think he's going to have to play running back. The reason they put him at running back is because they don't trust Jimmy Garoppolo to throw the ball more than 25 times a game, and you can't limit Debo's touches because Jimmy's limited. So you have to play him at running back. And toward the end, the playoffs, he was getting 10 carries a game. I don't think he'll have to do that. With Trey Lance, Lance will run. You'll give it to me with Lance as quarterback. Samuel can go back to getting 10 targets a game and maybe 2 carries. 2 carries in critical moments, but not 8, 9, 10 carries a game. That's what he had to do because of Jimmy Garoppolo, and he damn near brought the Niners all the way to the Super Bowl. Probably could have if his coach had committed to him. A+ for the running backs. Official B&A Music 88 says, I wish I knew McDaniels was biracial prior to him being hired in Miami. Now when I look at him, all I see is the rapper. Logic. Congrats, Coach Logic. Yeah, I had no idea. I still don't know what his racial breakdown is. I'd love to know. Barkley to Niners for 4th. Giants may trade him. The thing about running backs is they're a dime a dozen and you can always find them. Sure, that seems pretty cheap. You could probably find other ones that are cheap as well. If the new person isn't coach, I would like y'all to figure something out if it isn't too much to ask. Well, you'll just have to see. Rodgers and Adams for Jimmy Warner, D Ford. Yeah, I think that's pretty much Jimmy Warner and D Ford. No one wants D Ford. Rodgers and Adams for Jimmy Warner. I don't think that's going to be enough, dude. I like that, though. I like your thinking. I don't think it's going to be enough. Okay, here we go. Let's move on. Not quarterback yet. Special teams. You thought I was going to forget about special teams? Special teams. Hold on. This is serious. Special teams. D+. D+. I mean, they were pretty much bad in every way this season. Their coverage was awful. Teams started way past the 25-yard line on average on kickoffs. They couldn't kick the ball into the end. They couldn't cover. They were awful covering kicks, covering punts. Their punter has a really weak leg, and they try to write it off like he gets hang time, but Wisnowski isn't great. Their coverage wasn't great. Their returners fumbled a bunch of balls. They lost games on special teams this year. Robbie Gould got hot late, but the reason I'm giving him a plus is because despite how bad they were one of the 7 or 8 worst special teams units in the league this year. They won the freaking game in Green Bay. They won the freaking game. Now, part of the thing is that Green Bay had the worst special teams in the league, and you could say they lost. Green Bay beat themselves because in that game, the Niners defense was great, but Green Bay's defense was even better. And the reason the Niners won that game is because they blocked a field goal, blocked a punt, returned the punt for the touchdown, scored a touchdown on special teams. So I got to give them a plus. Not a straight up D. But there is a reason that Richard Hightower is not on this team anymore. They let him save face. They didn't fire him. He got the same job with the Bears. And I don't know why the Bears hired him, because if they did any research on the Niners special teams, they know it was a mess. It was an unprepared mess. There was a long list of lowlights. Like, what the hell are they doing? Do they even know the rules moments from this group? But they put the 49ers in the NFC Championship game. So I couldn't give them a straight up D. I couldn't give them a passing grade, though. D+. I'm thinking the Bears brought in Hightower because his unit won that game against the Packers, and that was probably, they're like, oh, well, if he could do that against the Packers, maybe he could do that for us. I don't know. D+, special teams. Anyway, Juju heads to the coast. I don't think the Niners need to spend money on a free agent wide receiver when they have an A+ group, an A+ trio, in my opinion. They need a better quarterback. I don't think they need any more wide receivers. They got wide receivers. They could use a speedy guy. They could get in the 6th or 7th round. Jimmy G was barred D&D. All charisma, not much. I'm not a D&D guy. Sorry. Not much combat ability, but motivates the others around. Won't win a fight. The bard is the one that tries to seduce the dragon instead of fighting, play the kid. I like that. He tried to seduce the dragon with his charm, his smile. Hey, how you doing? Just dropping a few curse words at his press conferences. All right, let's get to the quarterback. Quarterbacks. Actually, you know what? Not quarterbacks. Quarterback. Jimmy Garoppolo. C-. I know you think that might be harsh. I'm not grading Trey Lance. He started 2 games. He lost to the Cardinals. Jimmy lost to the Cardinals. He beat the Texans. Jimmy would have beaten the Texans. I have no idea what to make of Trey Lance. As far as I'm concerned, this was an incomplete for him this year. He was the backup. He was running scout team. He didn't even get to compete for the job. I'm not grading him. He's next year. This year is Jimmy Garoppolo, and I give him a C+. Now, he had some very good numbers in the regular season. He led the league in yards per completion, but that's all because of Debo. I think Jimmy had the best supporting cast in the league. He had an A+ backfield, including Debo and Elijah Mitchell, an A+ trio of wide receivers, an A- tight end who really has been an A+ tight end in the past, one of the best defenses in the league. He had it all, and yet only 20 touchdown passes. I mean, Matthew Stafford probably would have thrown 50 touchdown passes on this team. Patrick Mahomes probably would have thrown 60 touchdown passes on this team. Jimmy threw 20. He also threw 12 picks, and he was freaking awful in the playoffs. Now, he was hurt, but he was awful in the playoffs the last time he was there. His numbers were exactly the same. It's hard to blame his performance in the playoffs on his thumb. And I think, you got to remember also that he got injured 3 times this year. And the fact that he was injured at the end isn't really an excuse. It's more of something that you can count on, and it's part of the reason that his grade is lower than you might expect. I give him a C-. I think he's he's Mark Sanchez. He's a starting quarterback, but not a good one. He's Mark Sanchez with a better supporting cast. That's how he's going to be. That's how we're going to see him in the next few years when he goes to his next team. He'll be a starter, and they're going to think he's going to help him, but they're going to learn the hard way that he's not this magical motivator. He's a net negative. I couldn't even give him a C. He got carried by his supporting cast the whole year, and he couldn't do anything in the playoffs. I mean, they really had to work around him, and even doing so, he was terrible in the fourth quarter of the NFC Championship game, just as he was terrible in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl, and is a major reason they're not in the Super Bowl right now. You can put the best team in the NFL around him, as the Niners have done 2 years. They put the best team around him in the league in 2019. They put the best team around him in the league in 2021. And he's just not good enough. Like, you could put the best team in the league around Trent Dilfer in his prime, he would win the Super Bowl. Apparently, Jimmy can't. He's 30. At 28 and 30, he had the best team in the league both times, couldn't seal the deal, partially because he was historically bad in the fourth quarter. Clearly not up to the moment. Rattled. C- quarterback whose numbers are inflated by a lot of factors. But his numbers in the playoffs, career, 6 games, 70-something quarterback rating, that's the truth. That's who he is. And his next team's going to learn that the hard way. And the only thing all you want to know about, you want to remember about Jimmy Garoppolo from this year. What was Jimmy Garoppolo like in 2021? Do his numbers tell the whole story? What was Jimmy in 2021? Jimmy was an arsonist. He was so untrustworthy that the Niners had to move Deebo Samuel to running back because they couldn't trust their quarterback to throw more than 25 times a game. The Niners had Deebo Samuel, an all-pro wide receiver, George Kittle, an all-pro tight end, and Brandon Ayuk, maybe the best third option in the league. And they had to run their entire offense through Elijah Mitchell. They had to move Deebo to running back. They had to shoot for 30, 35, 40 runs a game because their quarterback was untrustworthy. Not because they didn't have the weapons. Because their quarterback can't move, can't make decisions, has the lowest football IQ of any starting quarterback in the league, injury prone, crumbles in the playoffs. C- is generous. I'm curious to see what he looks like next year if he even makes it through it. C-. Grant, grade coaching staff development of rookies, not including Lance. They did a good job with Ambry when they gave him a chance. I thought Trey Sermon looked good when he had a chance. Aaron Banks never had a chance. Trey Lance never had a chance. I thought they all improved, except for Diamador Lenore. The only one who didn't was Diamador Lenore. I think the Niners were just too conservative about playing rookies this year. Only one they trusted really was Mitchell. They all got better. They all played well. I thought the Niners were just way too scared about playing rookies this year. They just went with Josh Norman over Ambry Thomas just because for a long time. Hey, GC, what are the chances that Deebo concussed on that big hit in the fourth quarter of the NFC Championship? That's the only way I can rationalize Deebo only getting one touch in the fourth. Any thoughts? All the best. I think that hit was in the second quarter. The hospital ball from Jimmy Garoppolo, that was the second quarter. What hit are you talking about? Was there a big hit in the fourth quarter? I don't know, but it wasn't reported. I don't know. I just feel like Deebo Samuel crying like that at the end just shows you how he felt about not getting the ball. Okay, coaches. Let's talk coaches. All right. Coaches. B-. May seem harsh, but I want to make it real clear. I was very enthusiastic about what DeMeco Ryans did this year. I thought he was excellent in his first season as a defensive coordinator, although he couldn't get a stop in any of his final 3 defensive series in the NFC Championship game. Even though he had Nick Bosa, he had everything. So excellent first season for DeMeco Ryans. Excellent hire. Definitely the right man for the job. Still room to grow. He kind of folded in the same way that Robert Saleh folded in the Super Bowl as well. So definitely maybe a 49ers problem. It's not exclusive to this defensive coordinator. But overall, a very positive year for DeMeco. Let's talk Shanahan. Shanahan's year was complicated. It was volatile. Like, Jimmy is always the same, right? He's always that same C-, and his ups and downs are totally dependent on the players around him and the team he's facing. He was mediocre as hell in training camp. I pointed it out. 11 touchdowns, 11 picks, a 1-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. That's terrible. Some people try to glorify certain things that he did, but he wasn't good in training camp. He was C- all the way through the season. The Niners just moved all their best players to running back and worked around him, and they had a great defense. Kyle's not like that. Kyle has wild swings. So Kyle starts the year trading a ton of picks for a guy who's never played in the NFL. He basically trades the Deshaun Watson package for a guy who didn't play in 2020 and came from 1AA football. Wow, that's a drastic move. I like him, but that's what he did. Then he's like, but I don't want to play him. And he decides to go with the inferior quarterback all year, even though he never played that well. Not in camp, not in preseason, not in the regular season. He went with C- Jimmy all year. He did other weird things. He buried Brandon Ayuk for no reason. He stuck with Javon Kinlaw even though he was hurt. Stuck with Dee Ford even though he was hurt. He built this hole. He dug this hole. He largely is responsible for digging the 3 and 5 hole. And at that point, a lot of people were like, fire Kyle. His biggest supporters were like, I can't support him anymore. There were people saying, like, no one is doing less with more than this coach right here. He was a joke. People were bringing up his career winning percentage and pointing out how many awful coaches who had, the same amount of time in the league had better numbers than him. He was really blowing it. And then all of a sudden they were 3-5. John York starts coming to practices and he changes everything. He turns the whole season around and it's his decisions. 3 big ones. Deebo Samuel, running back. Eric Armstead, to defensive tackle. Ambry Thomas in for Josh Norman. Those 3 decisions changed everything. And the Niners go on this crazy run where they win 9 of 11 games. And Kyle goes from the lowest of the low to like, dude, this guy needs to get fired. It was like, I'd like to trade Kyle, but I don't even know if he has any trade value left. You might have to fire him too. Wow, this guy really is the genius that everyone said he is. He's the best coach in the league. Everyone should want his assistant coaches. In the span of a month, he goes from the lowest of the low to losing to Colt McCoy at home, losing to an Arizona Cardinals team that had no Kyler Murray, no DeAndre Hopkins, lost to them by 14, lost to the Seahawks twice, and is back on top. A-plus coach. On the way to the Super Bowl, everyone's picking the Niners to beat the Rams. Everyone thinks the Niners are going to win the Super Bowl. He's going to be a champion. He's going to exercise his demons, get the monkey off his back. All those cliches. And he's in Green Bay. He's in a really tough game. It looks like he might lose. He's losing the whole time. 3rd and 7, ice in his veins. Calls the run for Deebo. Ooh, that was great. And then he gets all the way to the NFC Championship game. He's a 10-point lead, and he blows it. And he only gets the ball to his best player once. 1 target, 13 and a half minutes left. He catches it, 12-yard gain, 1st down, never gets the ball again. Deebo Samuel, goodbye, end of season. And what's crazy is so Kyle digs his hole with his bad decisions, gets them out of the hole with his great coaching and great decisions, and then ends the season prematurely by reverting back to his old line of decision-making, to his old mistakes. He starts low, he ends high. He starts low, goes high, ends low. So I don't know. I'm going to I don't know. He's kind of right in that C- range too. We're right there once again, wondering, do his good do his good? Does the good do his goods outweigh his bads? Does his good outweigh his bad? You're still wondering. Why did it take me that long to say that? I guess I can't talk. His highs are so much more extraordinary than Jimmy's. His lows are so much lower. Who the hell is he? He's good Kyle and bad Kyle. I think it's funny. I made this whole thing about good Jimmy and bad Jimmy. He's the same Jimmy all the time. Like Jimmy is Derek Zoolander with the same look. Latigra, Ferrari, Blue. They're all the same look. Blue Steel, all the same look. Kyle, he can be the best coach in the league and the worst coach in the league in the same month. In the same season. He built the 3-5. He dug the 3-5 hold. He's the only guy who could get anyone out of that. And then right when the Niners were about to win it all, he was like, you know what? Nah, we're not going to the Super Bowl. Deebo, you're done. Jimmy, because the thing about Kyle is he makes it all about him. With the season on the line, it's not good enough to make it about Deebo. Let's just give the ball to Deebo and let him continue to carry this team let's just let him be the star. No, I'm going to trick him. Everyone thinks I'm going to Deebo, so I'm going to not go to Deebo. I'm going to highlight all of our weaknesses on offense, and then I'm going to blame poor execution when we lose. He makes it about himself. And that's, I think, why he keeps blowing these leads in the 4th quarter. What's crazy to me is that, a big reason I'm marking him down too is I'm adamant that he played the wrong quarterback all season. He should have played Trey Lance all season. He never gave him a chance. There was never a quarterback competition. It was just Kyle said, Jimmy gives us the best chance to win, trust me. And all year it was pretty clear that the Niners were winning in spite of him and that a lot of quarterbacks could do a lot better, including Lance, I thought. And despite him being wrong about that and forcing the issue with Jimmy all year, they still should have won in spite of him in the NFC Championship game. They still should have beat the Rams in spite of Jimmy in the NFC Championship game if only they'd thrown Deebo Samuel 2 more screen passes in the 4th quarter. And that's why I think it's kind of tough. I mean, in the moment, you don't blame him, but unless he wins a Super Bowl for the Niners at some point, you're going to look back at these moments when he got so close and be like, man, if only Kyle had made one commonsensical decision differently, the Niners would have their ring. And you keep saying like, well, he's so young. He'll get back. He'll figure it out. He'll get his championships eventually. He better. Because now, I mean, this is a second golden opportunity that he's thrown away. I mean, I have 3 A+ position groups, 2 A- position group, and he couldn't figure out that maybe he just needed to give Deebo Samuel the ball more times in the fourth quarter. Like, I don't get that. He had 13 touches against Dallas, 13 touches against Green Bay, 11 in the NFC Championship game. Was he tired? He wasn't tired. You couldn't give him 2 more touches in the fourth quarter. I mean, you had possessions where it was tied and you went 3 and out and none of the targets went to him. Like, I'm sorry. So even though Kyle can be an A+ coach, he also can be an F- coach at the worst times. And I just don't know. B- for the coaching staff. He does get credit for assembling a great coaching staff. He's got D'Amico. He's got Kosaric. He just brought in Anthony Lynn, although that's not part of this grade. He definitely has an ability to put together a coaching staff, but he's got his own issues. And I don't know if Anthony Lynn's going to be the one that can fix it in the future. So B- for the coaches. I look at this season as a bitter missed opportunity. I know the Niners look at this season as a tremendous exceeding expectations. Oh, they only exceeded expectations because they started off in that 3-5 hole that didn't need to happen. That's the way I look at it. So B- for the coaches. Don't hate me. That's just the way I see it. Let me get all these super chats that I missed. Adam Brooks got you. Hold on. And then I'm gonna do quality control. KS needs that Cobra Kai mentality, no mercy. I just finished it last night. What an ending. Cobra Kai. He lets up at the end, right? You hear about the Kyler Murray situation? No. What's the Kyler Murray situation? What happened? Hold on. Kyler Murray. Scrub social media, no longer follows Cardinals. Oh, God. That's funny. That's really funny. They might want to fire Cliff Kingsbury. I'm just saying. Hi, Grant. Love the show from Australia. Thanks, Anthony. Home of the best punters. Saw Jimmy Garoppolo live in NOLA 2019. Wow, thought he was the bomb, but the gunslinger lost his 6 gun on Bourbon Street and then brought a rubber knife to every gunfight. I totally agree with that. Well put. Lost his 6 gun on Bourbon Street and then brought a rubber knife to every gunfight. He's got a phobia of the big guns. Whoever they draft in the first few rounds hopefully gets to see the field this next season. Yeah, I would agree with that. That's pretty funny. Kyler Murray, really funny. He does seem kind of petulant, huh? Okay, quality control. Quality control. Hold on, I have some notes on this. Okay, hold on. Oh, yeah, we got that one. All right. Quality control. A-. A-. I want to say quality control did an excellent job this year. First off, quality control is the main reason the Niners didn't draft Mac Jones. And some Niner fans were a little upset about that because he played pretty well. Thank me later on that one, okay? Quality control is the main reason the Niners drafted Trey Lance and not Mac Jones. I believe that sincerely. Thank me later on that one. Then, I mean, look, I did what I could to get Trey Lance a fair chance. I failed. But you can't fault me for trying. I never gave up. I kept at it every single freaking week. I questioned Kyle Shanahan in the media after games, during blowouts. Why didn't you play him? Why didn't you play him? Why didn't you play him? I tried. You can't say I dropped the ball on that one. I did my part. And then look, they started off 3-5 when Kyle Shanahan was saying, when he was hemming and hawing about Brandon Ayuk, I was the only person on the beat, in the building, whatever you want to say, who was like, this is ridiculous. Brandon Ayuk's a good player. He's not doing anything wrong. Get him the damn ball. I am the reason. Quality control is the reason that Brandon Ayuk got out of the damn dog. Not many people get out of the doghouse. Ask Trey Sermon. Ayuk got out. Why? Quality control. And then when the team was 3-5, I want to say 2 things applied the pressure that got the most out of Kyle Shanahan. John York showing up to practices weekly and quality control. The nonstop ridicule from quality control, I think, really had an effect. I think Kyle Shanahan needs that kind of motivation. I mean, quality control, pointing out Jimmy Garoppolo's flaws, reminding Kyle Shanahan that trying to pump up his trade value by throwing a lot was only going to worsen his trade value, that you need to cap him at 25 throws a game. That was quality control. I mean, putting Norman how about putting Norman in the doghouse? Quality control. Only reason I grade myself down A- instead of an A is because I let up. I was providing the pressure. I was taking the brunt of it from the fans. Fans were like, "Oh, in your face, in your face." But really, I would say, like, I'm doing this for you. Kyle needs this. He needs someone to tell him, you're not good. You're blowing it. You're not as good as people say. You need to prove yourself. And all year, I was providing that service as quality control, being like, I'm not impressed. You haven't achieved anything. You got to make the playoffs. I'm going to trade you if you don't make the playoffs. You're on the hot seat. I had that sucker so hot, and some people thought I was crazy to crank the heat up to 400 degrees, but I did it, and it had great results. And then I took the pressure off right at the end. I picked the Niners to win the NFC Championship game. I said, Kyle's a changed man. There's no way he's going to give away a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter if he has one. Not this year. He's a different. He's a new Kyle. He's a super Kyle. Kyle 2.0. How many times did I say if the Niners had this Kyle 2 years ago, they wouldn't have lost that Super Bowl because he would keep giving the ball to Debo. I said that. Debo got no touches in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl. I said Kyle knows what to do with a second half lead. He knows how to finish out a big game. I was wrong. And you know what? It didn't help Kyle for quality control to start patting him on the back, because he has the whole organization patting him on the back. The whole organization says he's the greatest coach of all time, the smartest coach there ever was. He needs one dude in the organization being like, no, you're not. Prove yourself again today. Don't blow it today. And that's my job. They don't pay me. I've given myself that job. It seems to have the desired outcome. And I blew it. So, Jimmy choked, Kyle choked, I choked. I said, I believe in Kyle. I trust Kyle. It's not my job to trust Kyle. It's not my job to trust Kyle. It's my job to put the pressure on him. And I failed. Because I really do believe that Kyle is the kind of guy who responds to the one guy in the market being like, I think Kyle's weak. I think Kyle's overrated. I think Kyle is totally coasting off his last name. I think if Kyle's name was Kyle Banana Hands, he wouldn't be employed. He thrives off of that. What he doesn't thrive off of is everyone telling him he's great. And I fell into the chorus line. I did. And I feel really awful about that because the job wasn't over. And just because I did great for the entire regular season and the first two playoff games, it's not enough. Is it? So I really let the team down. I'm still giving myself an A- though. I'll be back next year. They picked up my option, still paying me nothing. Problem is when Kyle goes pass happy late in the game, Jimmy only looks for his 15-yard middle pass every play. Ends up the same, look for the defense. Yeah. Hey, man, just throw a screen to Debo. Is it too hard to get the ball in the hands of your best player? Is that too hard? All right, let's talk. Last thing I want to talk about, and I'll talk about some other stuff after that too. The Nick Bosa thing that people want to talk about. The John Embry thing, I want to talk about that one more time too, because some people are still pissed at me about that. So I want to keep talking. I will address both. But first, players and coaches who could follow Mike McDaniel to Miami. This is interesting. The Dolphins have $63 million in cap space. They also have the Niners draft picks that they gave up for Trey Lance. Remember the Niners traded for Trey Lance? They traded with Miami. So on the one hand, you got Kyle Shanahan has Trey Lance. Mike McDaniel has the picks Kyle Shanahan gave up for Trey Lance. That's interesting to me. Anyway, $63 million in cap space. You would think that Mike McDaniel might bring some players with him. I would definitely think he'll bring some coaches with him. Robert Saleh did. He brought Mike LaFleur, and he brought John Benton, offensive line coach. I'm thinking McDaniel might bring some people with him too. So I'm going to name some names. I'd like to know who you think they might bring. How about Arden Key? $63 million in cap space. You're an offensive coach. What does Kyle do? He puts a lot of his resources into defense because that's not his expertise. Arden Key's going to get some money. The Dolphins can pay him. He's a really good player. How about Arden Key? There's Raheem Mostert, but running backs are a dime a dozen. His knee's messed up. He's not durable. I don't think anyone's giving Mostert a lot of money. So Mostert's probably going to have to decide where he's going to take that 1 year, non-guaranteed $1 million deal. And it'll probably be the Niners. I don't think he would probably uproot his family to get the same deal somewhere else. But if they give him more money, maybe. It's just that running backs are a dime a dozen. And I would think that an offensive coach who's a running game expert would think, I can get a running back. What I need is a freaking defensive tackle like Arden Key or another defensive tackle like DJ Jones. I could see him cashing out both of those guys. Jaquaski Tart would be cheap. He could get him. Laken Tomlinson, possibly. Jimmy Garoppolo? I don't know. I mean, it seems to me that if he wants him and the Dolphins coaches ownership trusts him, then he'll get what he wants. I don't think you'd have to give up much for Jimmy Garoppolo. Banking your whole operation on two is risky because he gets hurt. Maybe between the two of them, you get 17 games. So maybe Jimmy could go there. And then coaches, Corey Undlin, that's the Niners pass game specialist on defense, or their defensive backs guru. And he was a defensive coordinator in 2020 in Detroit. So he has experience calling plays, running a defense. Could be him. And then Bobby Slowick, the 49ers pass game coordinator who replaced Mike LaFleur this past season. He could go follow Mike McDaniel over there and be an offensive coordinator. That's just off the top of my head too. I mean, I wrote them down, but that was off the top of my head. And there could be more. But I think this is interesting. I think we saw this happen with the Rams as more and more of Kyle's coaches spread out around the league. Next year, it'll probably be D'Amico too. A lot of his assistant coaches are going to follow for promotions. Why stay with the Niners and be a position coach when you can come over here with me and be a assistant head coach, a coordinator, stuff like that? Be interesting. So the Niners, they're going to have to do this year is keep their team together as much as possible. Keep as many coaches as possible. Extend the core members of the team like Debo and Nick Bosa. And I don't know if they're going to be able to keep Arden Key and DJ Jones. In fact, I don't think they will. I think those guys are probably going to get big paydays on teams that have lots of cap space like Miami. Paul says, thanks for your work this season. Next season, maybe have a guest who follows each team on in the week before we play them. Yeah, I think you're right. I can do that. I will. That's a good idea. I can do that next week. I can definitely do that. Sorry I didn't do that this year. All right, let's talk about some of the things people are mad at me about. Osa. All right, so last week I had Sibla on my channel. She's a weekly contributor, and she wanted to talk about Nick Bosa. She was really upset about what he did. I didn't know the story, and frankly, I'm not upset about what he did. But I will acknowledge that what he did was stupid, rude, disrespectful, and technically illegal. Do I think he should go to jail for what he did? It was public urination. It was at a high school that was graciously hosting the 49ers in Green Bay, Wisconsin, allowing them to use their facilities to practice, and he peed on them. He peed on like the benches in front of kids. Now his back was turned. He didn't scar anyone for life. Sibla was upset by it. I don't frankly care. I understand why she does. And all I want to say is I read a lot of articles about it just afterward. Like, what is she talking about? A lot of people in Wisconsin were really offended. No one said he should go to jail, but a lot of people in Wisconsin were offended. They're like, first of all, it's technically illegal. You know, this is the kind of thing that homeless people get in trouble for. But of course, you're not going to because you're rich and you're a player. But how about some respect for the people who are hosting you? And I think that's true. And I think what's interesting is think about if Bosa played for the Packers and the roles were reversed and the Niners were hosting the Packers and the Packers were at some high school in the Bay and Bosa in a Packers uniform peed on the benches. You'd be like, first of all, screw that guy. Second of all, he has a racist girlfriend. Third of all, he liked racist tweets. Like, you would not like Nick Bosa if he was on any other team. But he's on your team, and you're like, I got his back. That's small potatoes. No big deal. Whatever. I'm just saying have some self-awareness that the reason you like Bosa is because he's a Niner. That's the only reason. If he was on the Seahawks, if he was on the Rams, what would you think of Nick Bosa? I'm just pointing that out. So, Sibla has her reasons to be really triggered and upset by it. That's fine. I understand. I'm not really, but I do acknowledge that what he did was rude at best and illegal at worst. So I think you should think about that. Like, man, you're a young man. You probably shouldn't be peeing on people's high school fields like that in front of kids when that's not your facility. It's not your facility. I mean, at the Niners practice, players do run it on and off to go to the bathroom, but there's porta potties. Like, I don't know. It was a bad look, and I'm not mad at Sybil at all. She's going to continue coming on my channel. I totally understand how she feels. I understand how the people of Wisconsin feel. I understand how you feel. You're allowed to root for the players on your team. I get that. But just have some self-awareness that, like, if he were on a different team next year, you all of a sudden probably wouldn't like him as much anymore. So that's the first thing I want to say about Bosa. Now what I want to say about John Embry. Okay, so a lot of people feel like I implied the 49ers are racist by firing John Embry. I did not mean to imply that the 49ers are racist because they fired John Embry. I don't think I did imply that. If I did, I apologize because I didn't mean to imply that they fired John Embry because he's black. As if they were like, man, we have one too many black coaches on our roster. We got to get rid of this one. Or, man, something about him is just, no, like, that's not why I never meant to imply that. What I did imply and what I stand by is that he got screwed over. He didn't do a bad job. They wanted to give his assistant head coach position to someone else, Anthony Lynn, because Mike McDaniel's leaving. They have different skill sets. They needed to bring in a new run game coordinator. They weren't going to get Lynn without that title. So they took it away from John Embry, even though Embry didn't do anything wrong. Was he a bad assistant head coach? How could you say that? They went to 2 NFC championship games in the 2 years that Jimmy Garoppolo was held. Like, what was it his fault that Debo didn't get the ball? How could he? Anyway, he didn't do anything bad. His tight ends are good. He's a good coach. They needed to give that position to someone else. Fine. You didn't need to cut his salary. To me, there's only 2 explanations. One, the Yorks are cheap and they wouldn't go for letting him retain his salary with a different role. That's possible. They are cheap. 2, something personal happened between Kyle and Embry we won't ever know. And this was their way of firing him because there was some personal falling out. I have no idea. No idea. All I want to say is the guy got screwed over. And it was an unprecedented way. I've never heard of a coach having to take a pay cut for any reason. That players do that. Coaches do not. You either continue to get the same salary, get a raise, or you leave. This whole like take a pay cut, that's new. And I thought it was like, of course, the first assistant coach I've ever heard that would have to be put in a situation like that is black. Not because he's black, but isn't it a weird coincidence that a guy getting screwed over in a very new way is black? That's what all I want to point out was that he's getting screwed over and we should care because black coaches seem to get screwed over a lot. And this is a new way for a coach to get screwed over. Again, I didn't think the Niners were being like, we just have too many black coaches. And of course, they hired a black coach to replace him. But saying like, well, they have a lot of black coaches. They couldn't do anything. They couldn't possibly screw over one, right? Well, that's like saying I have a lot of black friends, but I couldn't possibly do wrong to a black person ever because my heart's in the right place and I like black people. Yes. But what about what you did to John Embry here? Was that necessary? And again, I'm not saying it was Kyle. I don't know if it was Kyle, it was John. I just feel very strongly that John Embry got screwed over. And I thought I was sad when there's another black coach getting screwed over. And of course, it's not because he's black, but what a coincidence. And great, you made things good with Anthony Lynn. You're giving Anthony Lynn employment, all these black coaches. That's great. But Embry got screwed. And that's what I wanted to say. It's not because he's black. I just feel extra sensitive for black coaches getting screwed because it seems like they get screwed more often. And I applaud the 49ers for all they do for black coaches. I do. I really do. And I think Embry got screwed. That's what I wanted to say. And I do want to apologize for implying that they fired him because he's black. I never meant that. I didn't. And I think that would be a stupid thing to imply. So did I finally clarify myself how I feel on that? Because I do feel strongly about this thing. Been thinking about a lot of it. The Jedi says Bosa, interesting character. He obviously has race issues, but this is the first white guy who took who backs Trey and liked his style. He's a character that if I played with, we'd have words and debates all the time. Okay, but I feel like normalizing him, trying to see him from his perspective, trying to make him a sympathetic person is because he's on the 49ers. If he were a Los Angeles Charger, a Los Angeles Ram, you wouldn't think twice about Bosa. In fact, you might not like him at all. You might write him off. Just pointing that out. Anyone else have anything to say about the Bosa or Embry thing? Because I'd like to address any more things. I do think that Bosa owes that high school an apology. It's really disrespectful. I do. I don't think he needs to go to jail. I think he owes that high school an apology. They were hosting you, man. There were kids there. It was really rude. It was extremely rude. Go somewhere way far away. Get out of sight. Go to I'm sure there was a bathroom there. It was a high school. I'm just saying. I think he owes that high school an apology. Peed on it. It's pretty rude. Anyway, I don't think it's that big of a deal, personally. But if you guys do, that's fair. That's fine. Thank you all for watching very much. Thank you all very much for watching. I'll be back soon. And as I said, there's going to be a new addition to the weekly lineup on Thursday mornings. Thank you for talking race. At least you try, and it's appreciated. Thanks. A lot of people don't like when you even go there. I'm not trying to moralize too much, but I think this is a really serious issue. Black coaches in the NFL. I'm very passionate about it. So, sorry if you're not, because I am. I'll be back later. Thanks for watching, everyone. Take care.